We coached him.
On the pit straight at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the Indy cars fire and are ready to go racing as the year-long series continues on what will be a most important day. The race for the CART PPG IndyCar World Championship is on. It's a long and very difficult road. At the season opener in Phoenix, Rick Mears was victorious, taking the very first checkered flag of 1990 and the early points lead. At the 200-mile mark in the race for the championship, it was the wily Rick Mears who led the pack and looked for more. In Milwaukee, Al Unser Jr. spun while leading, but recovered miraculously and took the victory. At the 1,058-mile marker, Little Al had the points lead. But Cleveland proved to be disastrous for Al Unser Jr. A pit stop went wrong. Fire. And the end of Al's day. 1,612 miles into the season-long run, Al Unser Jr.'s championship was in jeopardy. But Michael Andretti was now hot and catching up fast, winning his third race out of 4 at the Meadowlands Grand Prix and moving up in the point standings. "1,794 miles gone by, and Michael Andretti was in second. Meanwhile, Al Unser Jr.'s fates had improved since Cleveland. He took his first 500-mile victory at the Michigan 500, his second of 4 straight wins. 2,477 miles traveled, and Al Unser Jr. now opens his points lead. But the competitors are further down the road at the 2,800-mile mark into the year-long battle for the PPG Cup, and Little Al thinks of nothing but victory. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Well, the Indy cars are set and rolling on a very wet day at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course as we're ready for the running of a most pivotal race in the PPG IndyCar World Series. It's the Red Roof Inns 200 presented by Budweiser. Hello and welcome to Central Ohio. I'm Paul Page on a very wet day. The focus here is Al Unser Jr. He could, in fact, wrap up the PPG IndyCar World Championship here today. It's a long shot, but it's possible, and he comes here with a most enviable record. Let's consider, he comes here off of 4 straight victories. No man's ever done that before. At the Michigan 500, he drove the fastest 500 race in history, and he comes to this point in the season with more points than any other man ever has in the history of CART. So he's definitely the focus of the run here today. Now, since the last time we were here at Mid-Ohio, they've made some changes to the circuit. Derek Daly has raced here, in fact, won here in his Nissan IMSA GTP car. What changes have they made?
There are many changes. We're back on what we call the natural terrain road courses. But at Mid-Ohio, it's very different to the last time you saw it. Completely resurfaced, and they no longer use the S's here. So a dry lap time is almost 5 seconds a lap faster than last year. Now, during practice, we also saw an example, I think, of the unusual makeup of race car drivers. Michael Andretti had a big crash, 175 miles an hour. He lost his rear brakes, crashed head-on into the barrier, but the only thing he was worried about was how fast he could get back to the paddock and if his spare car would be ready to run. Now, he jumps into the car and sets the pole position time on the last lap of qualifying. I think that shows the unusual resilience and bravery of professional race car drivers.
Well, and there's little question that Michael Andretti is a driven man here today. But, of course, Michael is known to be very strong in the rain. You ride with Michael from the pole position as they move around the circuit. The starting grid is brought to you by the Die-Hard battery, now with more power when you need it most. On the pole is Michael Andretti. He'll be going for his 4th road course win this season. Alongside is Danny Sullivan. He's finished in the top 5 at every effort here at Mid-Ohio. The second row to the inside is Al Unser Jr., rewriting the record books, looking for a championship. Outside is Emerson Fittipaldi, the winner of this event in 1988. The third row to the inside is Rick Mears, the only driver in today's field who participated in the 1980 event here. And Bobby Rahal to the outside, a back-to-back winner here in 1985 and 86. The fourth row, Teo Fabi, the defending champion, and Mario Andretti, the winner here in 1984. In the fifth row to the inside is the Indianapolis 500 champion, Arie Luyendyk. And John Andretti, who has top 10 finishes in his last 3 starts. The sixth row is Scott Brayton. 73% of his points this year have come on road courses. And Eddie Cheever has a high watermark this year of third-place efforts at both Detroit and Toronto. We take a look through the rest of this starting field now. Now, you notice it is very wet here. As a matter of fact, the director of competition, Wally Dallenbach, and a number of the drivers went out, examined the circuit, declared it safe to at least start this race in. So we're running on schedule and expecting a race in the rain, Derek Daly. Now, some of the teams have decided that it's okay to go with the wet setup. There are others that are a little surprising.
That's right. Some of the two-car teams can actually make a choice. Like Fabi, for example, has gone onto a wet setup. Andretti is on a dry setup still because they say the car is so pitch sensitive.
There's the weather forecast for the day. It seems like we will have showers off and on through this run. That may serve the advantage of some drivers like Michael, like a Teo Fabi, like a Didier Tays. On the line here today in the running of the Red Roof Inns 200. Of course, the championship and the run of the race itself. So 2 stories unfolding here today. Now, here are the former winners here at Mid-Ohio. And you remember that the starting line for Mid-Ohio, because the pit straight was originally built so short, the Indy cars believe that it's brighter to start the race over on the long straight coming out of the keyhole rather than on this section of the course that we're looking at, which is, of course, the pit straight. So as they come around, they will maneuver for a start over on what really is the backside of the circuit. On board with Al Unser Jr., be able to stare him right in the eye. There's Michael Andretti's on board, be able to watch that hand jump down and grab a gear as he needs it.
You mentioned, Paul, why they start on the back straight. In fact, we're now inside Hiro Matsushita's car, the Panasonic Dick Simon Lola. Another reason they start on the back straight is because if the leaders take the green flag, the back markers are too far back. They're not actually around the corner on the straight. There's the S's we see on the left side that last year they used. This year they just run straight to turn 1, which are turn 2, which is called the keyhole.
So now they come into alignment. The starting line of this race, 200 miles, 89 laps just ahead, the green flag. And they say no. A yellow flag start. So they will come back into alignment.
The reason we saw the yellow flag is you could clearly see Michael Andretti, our pole sitter, was a good 2 car lengths ahead of Danny Sullivan. Now, it is very, very difficult to beat Michael off the line, particularly in the wet. He has that knack of just getting away ahead of his front row starters, or anybody for that matter. But Nicky Finoro decided this was not to go. He waved the yellow, so there's 1 more pace lap.
Danny Sullivan, second quick in qualifying. Right now, Gary Gerald is in his pit.
Paul, you may remember back in the middle of the season a couple of months ago in the state of Ohio, Danny Sullivan a winner at Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. And since that time, he's become the focal point of a good deal of speculation. Where's Danny Sullivan going to be driving in 1991? Nobody is giving a definitive answer, but there's a very strong likelihood that it won't be with the team Penske, as it has been in recent years. So this is somewhat of a showcase event. You keep in mind also the last 2 races, Vancouver, Denver, Danny Sullivan was second. He's still driving for Penske, doing everything he can. And he got a wet setup on the race car today, unlike Toronto when he started from the pole position up in the front row, and it rained that day. Let's go down the pits now to our colleague Lynn St. James.
There's a tremendous amount of focus and pressure on Michael Andretti as well. This is his 4th pole, second time that he's got pole position in the last lap of qualifying. And as Derek pointed out, that was after having a really bad crash and getting into his backup car. That shows how well the team is prepared, and I think that's really helping Michael's confidence. Now, he was injured a bit. I mean, he was examined at the CART facility, but he was not treated, and he's feeling very, very good. So he's a little bit sore, and he said he only hurts when he gets in and out of the pits. And mentioning the pits here, this is what we are calling Haviland Creek, because it actually comes right through the Andretti pit. And it's a very dangerous area as he comes into the pit. So that first pit stop is going to be really tough. Okay, up to you, Paul.
All right, rolling toward the starting line once again. This actually is one lap into the record book already, but not a green flag because the yellow does still fly, and they will send them around. But they are counting the laps, and of course the importance of that is that the fuel is allocated for the distance, and so they have to be very careful about it, make sure that they have the proper number of laps for the fuel that's already allocated in the tanks. So we have 2 no starts in a row, and we're counting laps, so they'll get the green flag hopefully on lap number 2. We'll be back for the now somewhat belated start right after this.
Die Hard.
Today's coverage of the Red Roof Inns 200 presented by Budweiser is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is 1 cup motor oil. By Firestone, tires that meet the test. And by Nissan, built for the human race. Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and maneuvering just through the first corner, heading for the keyhole, passing over that section of change in the race course where it's now a straightaway. It used to be an S's. And hopefully, as they come to the conclusion of scored lap number 2, we will actually see a start. It is Michael Andretti on the inside, sitting on the pole. Danny Sullivan starting to the outside. Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. back in the second row as they come into alignment now. And again, the starter takes a strong look at him. And Michael pulls ahead again. But this time they say, let's go with it. It's a green flag, and we're racing.
Michael did get the jump again, but look at Sullivan. He is closer this time, and he's on the outside line, but Michael looks safe. Now we're inside Al Jr.'s car. Look at that spray. Jr. running in third.
Al Unser Jr. dropped into third place on the start. Fittipaldi came in behind. There's what the view is for the leader, and you can see the difference. Already it looks like the Porsche off the track. Everybody else gets past easily as John Andretti sits by the edge of the circuit.
Unfortunate for John Andretti, he was the one that was not going to start with a wet setup. They decided to leave that car fully dry setup because these cars are so pitch sensitive. So maybe the dry setup caught John Andretti out in this first lap.
Danny Sullivan chasing Michael Andretti. Al Unser Jr. lies in third right now, was in a battle with Fittipaldi there for a second. Mario Rahal all close in as well as they come around now, acknowledging the flag at the pit straight, and that is the finish line.
Michael Andretti has full advantage of that clear road ahead of him. We saw from the in-car camera just how good the view is from the lead car and how bad, and we can see the spray here, that everybody has to drive through Michael's spray and then Al Jr. through 2-car spray, and we see Emerson Fittipaldi in a 4th place. There, the further back you are, the worse the spray is.
And on the pit straight, several cars, Matsushita and Greenfield. And Matsushita, there's the onboard camera. You can see he's in a most precarious position.
He has actually stalled the car. Now, these cars do not carry onboard starters. That's why they must get push started every time. Sometimes the corner workers can get the job done. Sometimes the tow vehicle has to be sent out.
Yellow flag flies only in that section of the course, so they're at racing speed elsewhere on this 2.25-mile circuit that is the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, one of the prettiest facilities in the United States. But now they're going to say full course yellow. No chances being taken here. Corner workers and course marshals out on the course. So Al Unser Jr. moves up into second place. With that yellow flag coming out on the course, we'll be back with more from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course after this.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Even before the first Nissan twin-turbo Z came to America, there were rumors of an amazing 300-horsepower V6 engine, of a body more sculpture than design, and performance that bordered on the mythic. So it was no surprise when Motor Trend named the Nissan twin-turbo Z Import Car of the Year. It was inevitable.
Three-time champion Johnny Tapia uses his stinging power against Luigi Caportaro in a USBA championship bout. Budweiser presents Top Rank Boxing, Thursday night, live on ESPN.
We're back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, still under a full course yellow while they clean up the incident from Hiro Matsushita, and this is the onboard view when he and Michael Greenfield, and the report too is that A.J. Foyt became part of this situation, though he was able to continue on. And you can see Foyt way ahead on the course spins it, then Greenfield spins it, and Hiro spins it as well.
It looks like Hiro Matsushita was actually taking avoiding action when he got on the brakes to avoid the incident that he saw happening in front of him. It looks as if he locked his rear brakes, got into a simple spin. Now he is back underway in the Panasonic Dick Simon car.
And Eddie Cheever started 12th, has moved up to 6th place. He got together with John Andretti, though, and you saw John Andretti off the course a little bit while ago. And you will notice when you see a car off the course, you have to be very careful about that because you can get stuck in the mud. It's been raining here so hard today. Now, also, Al Unser Jr. had moved up into 2nd place, but he did so as they were coming into a yellow zone. And so very wisely, he waved Danny Sullivan to come on past and return to 2nd place, because he knew that if he didn't do that, he would be called in by the officials for a stop and go, and that would have been costly.
Which is a good thing about CART. The driver, if he recognizes the mistake, he's allowed to correct it himself, which is exactly what we saw Al Jr. do.
All right, behind the PPG pace car, it's Michael Andretti, Danny Sullivan, and Al Unser Jr. We're on lap number 6, but we've actually only seen about a lap and a half of actual racing here. They delayed the start of this race by running several of the first 2 laps under the yellow flag. And then no sooner did we get going than we had that situation on the pit straight. All cars got restarted, but it looks like AJ just lost the back end, and then Michael Greenfield spun to avoid him, and Matsushita was sitting a little bit in the corner, so when he got on the brakes, the back end came around, but they all got restarted. And we should see a restart in this race just any time now.
And what that gives us now is, of course, all the leaders have time to sit in their cars and decide how they're going to attack the next part of the race, because they've had a couple of warm-up laps. We have an interesting situation here. Michael Andretti has an advantage. He's at the front. Sullivan, we've yet to see the Penske be fast in the rain. Al Jr., we know how good he is. Mario has raced many, many times, particularly in Europe in the rain. And, of course, Emerson, a past master of the rain, and Bobby Rahal. So we all have different situations here. But Al Jr. is the man that everybody watches because of his recent performances.
You know, we do need to apologize to race fans for the rather incomplete information that we relayed at the Vancouver race. There have been a number of conversations in the past weeks to cure that problem, and we have been assured now that CART will always have accurate information given to us here on these broadcasts. The green flag comes out, and Michael Andretti pulls away from Danny Sullivan, but it's Al Unser Jr. who is being challenged by the senior Andretti in a battle for 3rd place. Mario Andretti to the high side.
Very, very brave move by Mario. Look at him trying to get around the outside, and that's the area that we said earlier on sometimes has more grip. So Mario did try it, but Junior gets the power on earlier and manages just to pull away those 3 or 4 car lengths.
Dean Hall, the number 19 car, comes off the course. The battle continues for 3rd. Now for 2nd place as Danny Sullivan tries to hold off Al Unser Jr. and can't do it. Mario Andretti is right there challenging as well, and again going to try an outside position. Is that a neat tactic? He's forcing him down to on a lesser surface.
Very, very brave move, and he did manage to pull it off. It's always a risky maneuver because you have to depend on the confidence of the man you're racing with. But Sullivan did see Mario outside and decided not to chop across. But a very brave and a good move by Mario Andretti.
Why would Mario be playing so hard so early?
I think Mario always plays hard. Unfortunately, this year he hasn't had quite the results that he would like. He is chasing his son Michael, who I'm sure they judge each other's performances against their own good and bad days. But Mario has not had the type of results I think he wants or probably deserves this year.
Michael Andretti onto the pit straight again. Al Unser Jr. in 2nd place. Mario Andretti started in 8th, and in just 2 green laps moves up to the position he occupies now in 3rd place, and he is challenging Al Unser Jr. for 2nd. Danny Sullivan has fallen back and now runs with his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi.
We asked Michael before he started whether he went on a wet setting. He said no, because he didn't think there was any point. Now Mario, in a 2-car team, you can take a chance. Run 1 on wet, 1 on dry. I think Mario has put on a wet setting on this car because it looks as if it's handling as good, if not better, than most of the cars he's passing right now.
On a day like this, it's very difficult to try and judge. While there are thunderstorms and rain showers forecast in the area, it's kind of a cellular situation, so it could very possibly dry, and if you're committed to one setup or the other, it could put you out in left field very quickly.
That's right. Mario has a wet setup. He is able to move around the racetrack more than anybody else. Al Jr. sticks to one line. We can see it here, but we see Mario. He goes inside. He moves outside. He's able to have a look at different areas that are going to try and make a pass. So I think Mario has a softer setup than most of the people we see right now.
Talking about the wet setups, let's get a further update. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Derek, talking about the wet versus the dry, and people frequently ask, what is the difference? The crew chiefs tell us probably 3 key areas. You try to get as much downforce at the rear of the car, so you put a bigger wicker bill than you might not have in a dry condition to try to get the back end of the car to stick. You also take camber out of the tires, which gets as much grip out of the tire on the racetrack as possible instead of leaning the tire on the setup of the car. And then also you soften the springs so the car's a little more forgiving. It's not as rigid, so if you hit a rough spot or a rippled strip or something like that, it won't jump away from you and get you in more serious difficulty.
Mario Andretti in the first turn tried Al Unser Jr. to the inside. Looks like he's going to do it again. He's going to take the inside route coming down into the keyhole. And he gets down onto the concrete surface and sticks pretty good. But as you pointed out, Derek Daly, as he moves past little Al, you really have to trust the man you're alongside.
You really have to trust the man you race with. We saw Mario now use the inside. We mentioned earlier on, he seems to use whatever side he likes. But look at Al Jr. come down the inside, try to take that pass back.
Mario Andretti approaches this right-hand corner from the far outside, sweeps across the front end of Al Unser Jr. and maintains second place. Eddie Cheever moved from 12th, now runs in 7th. Roberto Guerrero started in 15th, now runs in 8th. So some drivers accustomed to the rain performing very well in it.
Here's Bobby Rahal still trying to find a way past the Penske of Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi now following Sullivan, who's running 4th. But Rahal, a past master in the rain. And there's Eddie Cheever. I've seen him many, many times be a master in the rain. So Cheever, a man on the move here, following Rahal very closely.
Emerson Fittipaldi moves to the outside. Then Rahal, then Cheever, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Rahal, of course, still on the edge of the championship fight. Needs to come up with a position higher than 5th if he wants to stay in that fight here today.
Paul, we do not have as many rooster tails. We're only a few laps into this race, and already the rain has stopped. There's almost a line drying because you can see right here with Sullivan, the rooster tails are gone. Now that plays back into the hands of the people who did not change their cars to a wet setup.
Of course, if you would be running in a drier setup with the rain tires, the tire will go away often in less than a lap on a big course like this.
There's so much heat generated in these wet weather tires because the compound is so soft that if it does dry out, the wet weather tires can get chopped up. Look at Cheever. He did make a pass.
So Eddie Cheever, brilliant in the rain. Remember that he finished 3rd in the rain at Toronto. So he is a driver definitely on the move, and one of those drivers, as we have suggested, that has something to prove. He really would like to come up with a good performance for his team before this season is out.
Remember, this is the Lola Chevrolet that he is in. He did start in the Penske. Let's go down to Lynn St. James.
Thanks, Derek. You've all been talking about this wet setup, and I talked to both of the Andretti teams, and they really did pretty much the same thing. They just chose to go aerodynamics rather than getting into the suspension. So if it dries, all they'll have to do is to be able to come in, and when they change tires, they'll be able to just make that wing adjustment to be able to make sure they get the aero that they need for a dry track as well as a wet. So they didn't go too dramatic.
One of the nice things about the rain is that the pit crew comes more into the game because of the changes they can affect on the car. And ordinarily a well set up car, well, it becomes pretty well equalized when you race in the rain. It's really a driver's run, and right now this run belongs to Michael Andretti.
From the McGruff files.
Father, this is the best battle on the circuit, as 5th place Emerson Fittipaldi is trying to hold off Eddie Cheever, who has been steadily moving up through the field. Bobby Rahal sits back just a few hundred yards behind Cheever, running in 7th place.
We've seen Cheever try to go down the inside of Emerson many times. Now, Emerson uses the wide line here. Look at Cheever go down the inside, uses the concrete patch. Coming on and off these surface changes can be difficult. We see Cheever twitch as he puts the power on there, but Cheever is looking for a way past Emerson. Looks to be a little bit faster, but not quite able to make the move yet.
There comes Eddie Cheever as he darts to the inside. Certainly let Fittipaldi know that he's there, and he's going to try to scream on the inside, but once again can't get it done, and you saw Fittipaldi wisely left plenty of opportunity there should Cheever want to poke the nose in. Now, Mother Nature, I think, is going to become a player here very quickly, because as you see from point to point on this rather large 2¼ mile circuit, you see sunshine glinting off these cars. So there's patches where there's plenty of sunshine that will dry quickly. Other parts still overcast. In fact, some rain showers being reported.
What we will see is as these cars use the same line all the time, it will dry that particular line on the racetrack, which means it gets harder on the wet weather tires, which means if this sunshine keeps up, we may have pit stops earlier than we anticipated.
So back at the front of the field, here comes Mario in pursuit of his son, then Al Unser Jr., and then Danny Sullivan as the front end looks like it's closing down and beginning to race.
That's right. It looks as if Mario is definitely catching Michael. Now, Michael still has that advantage. We're coming into back markers here. We see the lens clears on our in-car camera here, but Michael Andretti still leads this race.
Derek, as we go down the longest section of this circuit here, perhaps you can take us around. On board with Michael Andretti.
This is where we saw the start. We just saw the start line there where the 2 yellow flags were given. This is where Michael had this crash. He went straight on here into that wall straight ahead of you, but not this time. This is turn number 4, second gear up the top of the hill, 75 miles an hour. Downhill, still second gear. He goes through 75 miles an hour, the lowest speed through here. Now he exits here, second, third, fourth gear in the dry, up over an elevation change, down to turn 8 and turn 9. Look at the water on the right side. He just flicks it up with the right front wheel, and off he goes again. Little correction here. That's the problem with the rain. This is down through turns 10, and now it's 11. Down changes, elevation change. He comes up over the rise, puts the power back on. Now he comes to the carousel, the slowest corner on the racetrack. Second gear, we see the front tires kick up that spray again. He's on the throttle. Turn 13, now picks out his board. Look at the rain on the left side. The line is drying where the race cars are using the racetrack.
Of course, when you see sections of the circuit with standing water, like we saw especially outside of the carousel and as they came onto the pit straight there, puts you in mind of the old Marlboro Challenge. There, once again, that's where the old chicane was. And one of the Penske cars off, that's Fittipaldi, off and against the tire barrier. Now, doesn't look like there's any immediate damage to the car. The question is, can he get it unstuck?
Well, that's the problem now. Even if we get wrecker trucks in there, that ground is so soft because we've had so much rain that Emerson will first try and use the corner workers to try and get the car out of there, but he is going to sit there for as long as possible or as long as necessary. You see him gesturing there, get me going, push me fast.
And they're looking for some help to try to get Fittipaldi out of there. Taking a look at the start of the run, Michael Andretti led right from the green flag. His father Mario is in second, Al Unser Jr. third, Danny Sullivan fourth. Cheever comes up to 5th place now. Ray Hall in 6th, Roberto Guerrero 7th. Teo Fabi, the Porsche, is 8th. Scott Goodyear is in 9th. And Didier Tays having a spectacular run. He started 18th. He's now running up in 10th.
Whoa, we saw an avoidance move by Michael Andretti there because he came over that rise, that last right-hand corner in second gear, and the wrecker truck was right there, so we had to take avoiding action, drove off into the more wet line, and then continues on his way. But Michael still has a nice, safe lead here over his dad.
Michael Andretti works his way across the line, completing lap number 15 at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on what is now a drying circuit. At least for the most part, the line on this track has dried out. Harkens back to the Miami Challenge a couple of years ago when Michael and this man, Al Unser Jr., were battling for that most prestigious win there. And Al Unser Jr. got forced into one of those puddles, lost control in braking, and straight on into the walls. Michael went on to win. So Al Unser Jr. circles around this course and, of course, is looking at the possibility of a championship this year. If not today, it could happen, though it's quite a long shot. We asked him if in April someone had said he would win 6 races and 4 in a row. What would his reaction be?
I'd have laughed and then said no way. But just because of how competitive the PPG Cup is. It's very competitive, and for one person to do as well as we've done is really great. And you know, I feel lucky and fortunate that I'm with a race team that is capable of doing it. And I knew they were capable back in 1988, and that's why I went to Rick Gallis in '88 and joined him, because I knew it was there, and that we just needed to fine-tune it and make it a winner.
Well, the Gallis-Craco team has been a spectacular effort this season, and I think they've benefited by the addition of Bobby Rahal on the team, because now they can get twice as much information twice as fast. Seems to be working out. Both drivers with slightly different styles, but able to impart a great deal of information to one another.
I'm always a firm believer in two-car teams. Always.
There's Mario, of course. Doesn't touch anything, gets back on. And that, with the puddles on the course, is just how fast it can happen. By the way, Fittipaldi did get a start and is back on the circuit. Let's go to the pits, Gary Gerald.
Emerson Fittipaldi is in. We look over the wall as the crew surveys. They want to see if there's damage at the front wing. Everything appears to be okay. A lot of grass, weeds. Rick Reineman works at the right front. Something wedged, perhaps, underneath the right front edge of the wing. They throw a tool over the wall. We nearly caught that one in the head. It's a pair of pliers. He's trying to cut something away from the right corner of the wing. Can't tell how much damage. Emerson's back underway once again.
Repairs effected in 22.8 seconds, and Fittipaldi back on the course, but the pit time doesn't reflect all of the time that he sat off the course. He's gone a good 2 laps down at this point.
I think what they were trying to cut away was a small piece of the wing end plate that got folded back, which they cut away.
Well, Michael Andretti, a most driven man at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and he is out in front. Starting from the pole, he's led all the way. A championship is on the line here today. We'll be back with more.
The world's fastest and most exotic Mercedes-Benz comes on Goodyear Eagle radials, and only on Goodyear Eagle radials. Why? Because the engineers at Mercedes-Benz want it that way. And they're another reason why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
The Nissan I want is the, was in those commercials. They drove it to South America, the Pathfinder. We'd load up the Pathfinder and, whoops, forgetting a 4-door, and go skiing every weekend. Or the Paris-Dakar Rally. We could be the first family to race from Paris to Africa. Quit our jobs, pulling kids out of school. Maybe not.
We tested STP oil treatment under the worst possible conditions. In the taxi cabs in New York City. The result? Engine lift to wear was reduced by up to 50%. And now there's an STP for your newer car, too.
You may not have thought about getting a Sears Die-Hard battery until you've had a little time alone to think about it. Die-Hard, more power when you need it most.
Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, it's Bobby Rahal that's challenging Eddie Cheever in a battle for 5th place. This is the key battle on the circuit. Michael Greenfield wisely moves to the side and lets the battle come on through. The two have been on one another for the past couple of laps. They're really having an excellent little fight, though moving around Greenfield gave a little bit of breathing room to the number 15 target car of Eddie Cheever. Let's get an update on this situation. Here is Gary Gerald.
Well, we were talking about how it has quit raining for the past few minutes, and the track is drying more and more, and that's playing right into the hands of Bobby Rahal. Barry Green, the team manager here, calling the shots, and he's been in a conference the last couple of moments, but he said, we tried to go with a compromise setup, but we favored the dry. We want to see a dry racetrack. And indeed, as it dries out, I think Rahal has a chance to become more competitive. His teammate Al Unser Jr., Rick Gallis, tells us, however, is using the wet setup today. So a split between the Gallis-Craco team.
Seems to be what all of the two-car teams decided to do, and that's a pretty wise decision. There you see an example, though, once again, where Bobby Rahal had to come up and take a line that forced him through a puddle, and he can hydroplane. He definitely can lose traction when that happens.
He can. What we will see later on as the line gets drier and drier, we'll see the drivers trying to find those wet spots to cool these tires, because the tires will overheat. The compound is too soft to run in the dry.
So Bobby Rahal with the Porsche in pursuit. Just behind him tries to catch up to Eddie Cheever, who seems to be steadily inching away from Rahal.
We saw Cheever inch away earlier on. Then they got in traffic and it got closed back up again. We see Teo Fabi now joining on to the Rahal battle. But we see Cheever inches away, and then he loses it as soon as he gets into traffic.
So while Rahal tries to catch Cheever, Teo Fabi has been able to close in. Remember, Teo Fabi is the defending champion here at Mid-Ohio in a team that most certainly is in doubt. Most of the reports seem to indicate that Porsche is definitely out of the action of the Indy cars, at least as a factory entry, at the end of this season. So Teo Fabi, as he drives here, certainly is looking for another ride and wants to impress anybody he can. Now, the most logical place for Teo Fabi to go, and the place we've seen most of the conversations, has been to the Jim Hall VDS team that has been going to be announced. Jim Hall has certainly acknowledged it. France Weitz, who works for Count von der Straten, has mentioned it as well, but the official announcement has not yet come, and certainly not any announcement of a driver.
And of course, we are right in the middle of the silly season, so it is important for drivers to put on good shows towards the back half of this season. Remember, Teo Fabi was a winner here for the Porsche team this time last year, but Fabi now chasing Rahal. But Cheever, as he goes by our booth here, he does have a bit of a misfire in his engine.
So Teo Fabi, and you can see the humidity here causes those vortexes to come off the rear wing of not only Fabi's, but almost everyone's car here. With all the speculation about Porsche for next year, we asked Teo, is that really a distraction?
Well, I just concentrate on doing the best possible job, and you know, I want to win. I think the team deserves a victory this year, so I want to try to do my best for the team and for myself, because I'm sure if I win a race, it's going to help a lot on my discussion for next year.
So Teo Fabi, in those sensitive areas of negotiation, Derek Daly referred to it, as we all do, as the silly season. And Teo is right up, climbing on the back of Bobby Rahal, while this battle for seconds develops between Al Unser Jr. and Danny Sullivan. Because it's a little further up, we'll keep an eye on this for a moment. Al Unser Jr. tries to hold off Sullivan. Sullivan comes to the inside. Willie Ribbs off the course, and there's some serious damage to the right rear of that car, so it looks like his day may be ended.
His day is definitely done. We see heavy damage to that right rear suspension, so Willie T. Ribbs has yet another short day in the Raynor car.
He's having such a tough season. He really deserves a better first season in the Indy cars. He was running 16th as he got into a situation there. Back to the battle for second place. Al Unser Jr., Danny Sullivan.
When it rained, Paul, we saw Al Jr. pull away from Sullivan. We know from the pits that Al Jr. did favor a wet setup. Now it's drying, and Sullivan is catching him. So this is how finely tuned these cars are. When the conditions change, the handling of the car changes, and the advantage goes or comes.
And you will again notice from time to time a patch of sunlight bearing down on these cars, and a glimpse of it there. That's drying sections of the track now unevenly. Plus other sections of the track, the carousel most notably, has a lot of standing water in part of it, and it's making for a very difficult drive. Get the different cars to maneuver under these different conditions depending on how differently they're set up.
Now we can clearly see that drying line as we look down that front straight. The line is definitely drying. Now remember, the most difficult thing Sullivan has to do is not only catch Al Jr., but to pass him, he has to move off that dry line back into the wet. So that is a very dicey and dangerous situation sometimes.
Al Unser Jr. with Sullivan down inside. Sullivan running the concrete section. Little Al comes across, picks up the same section as well, and keeps him back.
We can see the sunshine now, the glare that it causes at the end of this long back stretch. But we are looking back to Al Jr. and Sullivan. Sullivan looks like a faster car at the moment, but he has his work cut out to catch it and pass Al Unser Jr. Al Jr. is one of the most difficult people to pass because he knows racecraft. He knows how to position his car, the line that he needs to take to make it more difficult for the car that's trying to make the pass. And he is entitled to take that line.
Back now, taking a look at that fight between Eddie Cheever and Bobby Rahal. It's a fight for 5th place. All of this is giving a tremendous advantage, by the way, to Michael Andretti. He's now pulled a good 14 seconds out ahead of 2nd place Al Unser Jr. This three-way fight, there's Teo Fabi again challenging at the back of Rahal. And there's Tays, Didier Tays, the tune-up Masters car. There was a fellow we really expected would go very well in the rain. This is too bad.
Well, he all but did a rain dance this morning, trying to anticipate and trying to bring rain on, because of course the Buick engine does not have the type of horsepower that the Cosworth or the Chevrolet has. So they were hoping that the rain would equalize things. They wouldn't need the type of horsepower. But Didier Tays, his day may be done, because it's very, very hard to get out of those gravel pits.
He still wasn't having the greatest moment. He was running 19th at the time that he got off the course. We continue to look at this three-way battle for 5th place now, though the real challenge seems to be Teo Fabi, who is right at the back of Bobby Rahal's car.
Bobby, we were told, did put a wet setup on the car. That means slightly softer springs. It's good when it's wet. However, we don't know what it's going to be like when it dries out fully, if it dries out fully.
As we watch them circle here, let's try and get an idea of where it is drying and where it is still wet. All the way through the keyhole and all the way down here, it looks like we're on fairly good surface. But now you're running down in elevation, and water will tend to pocket. Coming up through this section now, it's getting just a little bit moist.
Suddenly, Rahal made up a lot on Eddie Cheever there. Had to look down the inside at the end of the straight, then look to the outside going up the hill. So Cheever being harried quite heavily by Rahal. But look at Rahal. He has his mirrors and his hands full trying to keep Teo Fabi at bay.
CART safety team there to assist Didier Tays and try to get him out of the sandbox. As Teo Fabi continues at the back of Bobby Rahal's car. Now, as they come through here, it's fairly dry through this section, except on the outside of the carousel. Still a lot of standing water, and I don't think that's going to go away today. Now look as they come onto the pit straight. A lot of water to the inside as well as the outside. Only the line really is open, so that's not a place to maneuver.
And still extremely slippery. We saw Cheever when he put the power on. Little twitch, little correction of the steering wheel as he comes up past the pit. But look at Rahal, look at Fabi. He is all over Rahal.
Here comes Teo Fabi making a move to try to position himself down inside Rahal. He gets the job done, slides a little bit to the outside, and Rahal has to drop a little bit on the brakes to allow Teo Fabi to move into play. So Teo Fabi picks up 6th place from Bobby Rahal, but Rahal is right back, and he's going to try Teo Fabi as they're on the fastest section of the circuit. Coming down, slamming down through the gears and brakes into a right-hander. But he can hold him off. Teo Fabi continues to maintain just ahead of Rahal, and now sets his sights on Eddie Cheever.
What Fabi did there is he protected his position. He moved to the right side of the racetrack, so if Rahal was to make the pass, he had to go around the long way, around the outside, and of course that's virtually impossible. So Fabi took one corner to protect his position. Now he sets off after Cheever.
So Teo Fabi in pursuit of Eddie Cheever in 5th place, while Michael Andretti is still at the front of this field, and he is a good 14 seconds ahead of Al Unser Jr. We'll be back with more after this.
You know, there was a time when
second place. So Danny Sullivan now begins to quickly motor away from Al Unser Jr. And little Al almost casually changes gears as here comes a charge from Mario Andretti as well. Mario Andretti trying to get the advantage on the line. Coming to a right-hander just ahead. Mario Andretti alongside Little Al now, and Mario picks up 3rd place. Little Al, in the course of just 3 corners, moves back 2 positions.
We saw Mario make some very brave moves earlier on. Very, very deep under braking. He did exactly the same thing to Al Jr. Took the line down the inside. The wetter line, make note of that, because that's a very slippery area. Still have the grip, so now Mario chases Sullivan.
Now Eddie Cheever gave up his battle with Rahal and Fabi, went into the pits and changed onto dry, slick tires. Apparently he's of the opinion that the course has dried sufficiently to warrant such a maneuver. So Cheever is out rolling on dry tires now. We have a watch on him, and we'll keep track of his progress as well. But a big change at the front of the field, though not in the 1st position. Michael Andretti still leads this race and is well out in front of the 2nd place car.
Now, Rick Gallis will watch very closely the progress of his man, Al Jr., out there on wet tires, because whatever setup he has on that car, if he begins to lose time to Andretti, too much time to Andretti and Sullivan, they may pull Jr. in for slicks earlier because they think he may gain more of an advantage by doing that.
In this race, as in every kart race, Goodyear sponsors on ESPN, Goodyear will be sending a check for $1,000 to Kara. the Championship Auto Racing Auxiliary. Kara, by the way, is putting together a program, a silent auction, along with Auto Week magazine toward the end of this year to benefit the medical bills of Darrell Gwynn. You might remember that the National Hot Rod Association and NASCAR scheduled a baseball game last week in Reading, Pennsylvania, which we now have the report on the score, 21-20, favor of the NHRA. That sounds like you're going to have a rematch coming there. A lot of people banding together to help one of the nicest men in motorsports, Darrell Gwynn, who suffered that terrible accident over in England. So you want to stay alert for that so we all can participate when the time comes. At the front of this field, it's Michael Andretti, Danny Sullivan, Mario Alonso Jr. all lined up together, and Mario now charging on Danny Sullivan, trying to use slower car placed just ahead to get around. That's Jeff Wood, of course, and A.J. Foyt just ahead of Jeff.
Of course, Sullivan hopes that he gets a clear run. Andretti, of course, hopes that Sullivan gets blocked. It all depends on how the luck of the draw, but Sullivan does get by Jeff Wood. Now tucks in behind Foyt, but Mario yes, he does. He sneaks down the inside of Jeff Wood.
Good presence for Jeff Wood, who was in fact in the battle with Foyt for 21st place at the time these leaders came up through the field. It was good thinking of Jeff once he saw that Danny was passed to make sure that somebody else was there too and make sure he gave him plenty of room.
Here's a traffic jam here. Mario was forced to go around the outside of A.J. Foyt, which is nothing else he could do. That's the keyhole term, but Al Jr. came down the inside. Now, look at how much he catches under braking. Down the inside, watching every move Mario makes. They both tuck down, clip the apex, but Al Jr., I don't think quite has the speed to pass Andretti.
Dale Bobby just in and out of the pits. We're trying to keep track of the time of Eddie Cheever. The average speed of the race has been down at 84 miles an hour. Eddie just clocked a lap at 92 miles an hour. So now we can go back and put some clocks on the leaders of this race and find out what they're turning and see how much of an advantage those dry tires may have afforded Eddie Cheever.
We see some blue sky here. The dark clouds have moved away, so the chances of it being dry and getting drier are quite high. So now the team managers, not only do they judge what they do to their cars, but they must also become fairly accurate weather predictors right now.
You saw for a second there, see it again. There are some very dark skies over some section of this course. Now we take a look at Eddie Cheever again running on the dry, so you can see that light sheen on his tires, which tells you that he is in fact picking up a lot of moisture through some sections of the circuit.
This is a risky time for Cheever on being on slicks. There's Michael coming around. Michael will put a lap on Cheever if he manages to catch him. When Michael sees that Cheever is on slicks, it'll start his mind thinking of exactly what the correct tire choice is. But we saw Cheever in a very difficult position right now because the track is almost dry, but he must go fast enough. Here's Mario, goes down the inside of Sullivan, so Mario does take the position away.
Mario grabs second place away from Danny Sullivan as he very smoothly moves to the inside, coming off the fastest section of the course. And now Mario comes back into second place, so an off-course excursion, and back on the circuit now. He has to set his sights on his son, Michael, who's about 25 seconds ahead.
It's amazing how much an off-course excursion costs you, because remember early in the race he was very aggressive. He ran second. He has now taken all this length of time to get back from that off-course excursion, to get back to second place.
All right, let's go to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Well, as we anticipate that critical first stop for Danny Sullivan, the decision's not made, but right here ready to go over the wall. Rain tire, dry tire, and then as you come up and look over the crew's shoulders, looking out to the sky, you talked about threatening clouds. It's very dark coming right in our direction. Will it stay dry? That's the question. That's the decision they face with a pit stop about a couple of laps away.
And how's this for a fact for you? Michael Andretti on the same lap that Cheever was running about 92 on dry tires was running 97 miles an hour on wet. If the clouds move in, then the decision seems to be best for Michael. We'll be back with more right after this.
For Deja Vu, here's Rich.
Thank you. Welcome to the Deja Vu Show. Today our guest is Mary Terry.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Good.
Tell me a little bit about the Deja Vu Showgirl magazine.
Well, it's going to feature the Deja Vu Showgirls from coast to coast.
And that's going to be in full color?
Yep, full color.
And we can pick that up at any one of the Deja Vus.
Deja Vu near you.
I'm going to look for you in that magazine. That's all the time we have.
Bye.
We'll see you at Deja Vu.
Deja
Vu. There was a time when I couldn't imagine myself buying something from TV. I mean, who knew what I was really going to get? But a good friend told me about Home Shopping Club. They make sure you're happy with whatever you order. Their 30-day guarantee means that if I buy something I don't like, I can return it and get my money back. So I called and ordered, and when my package came, I knew I'd made the right decision. Of course I kept it. Well, wouldn't you?
Home Shopping Club. Great bargains, guaranteed.
Tuesday night, the pennant chase continues as the Red Sox face the Orioles and the Athletics beat the White Sox. Or the Brewers battle the Indians and the Mariners take on the Rangers. Tuesday night, live on ESPN.
Al Unser Jr. in for his first bit of routine service. Gary Gerald is right there.
And we look from behind Paul as Bobby Rahal comes in, and it is rain tires. They'll stay wet for Unser. Rahal right in front of him now. The team coming in. Junior is out, and they make the change, and we're waiting for them to spin the tire in our direction to see if it's dry or wet. It's wet for Bobby Rahal. We're 3 pits away. Little Al back on course quickly. Rahal now ready to come off the jacks. Now he goes through a lot of water in a very wet spot as he slides and gets out around the corner and back on the course.
So the Gallus-Craco team opts to stay with the wet tires, which looked like it may be the best decision, especially considering the times that we saw on Eddie Cheever. We, of course, weren't the only ones that were taking a look at that. Eddie Cheever, after switching to the dries, dropped up to a lap at 98 miles an hour, though, just a few seconds ago, which is faster, in fact, than the fast time that we have at this point for Michael. So it's a fairly fluid situation, no pun intended.
We now see something very, very interesting because of the Gallus decision to stay on wet. Cheever, from what we can see up here from our timing, has the fastest race lap right now on those slick tires. So to me, to my mind, that might have been a strange decision by Gallus. However, we don't know how far away the rain is.
And, of course, these teams are fairly sophisticated about monitoring such a thing. That from time to time, they've even gone to as much trouble as putting a helicopter or an airplane up in radio communications with the pits and keeping track of where a frontal system or where a cell might be. So the sophistication, the intelligence operation in the Indy cars is pretty sophisticated.
Of course, Michael has not stopped yet, so the advantage his crew and his team manager has, he can see everybody else's hand as they're stopping, which can help them make their critical decision, and it could be a critical decision here.
And looking at that whole team aspect, Michael Andretti leads it as he comes down onto the pit road now. He has a 27-second lead over his father. Let's go to Lynn St. James.
Michael Andretti is in the pit. Everyone's over. They are going to change tires, but now they've decided not to change tires, to stay on the wet. He had called in that he wanted to go to slick, but they don't have a problem. They just decided to stay on the...
Well, Michael Andretti roars back into the action as his father comes onto the pit straight. Michael may be able to hang on to the lead as he comes out here. Off onto the racetrack itself, watching for Mario to come closing in as well. Now Mario's well back. Michael makes his stop and maintains the lead. Good piece of work by the Newman Haas crew.
Very good work, but a very curious decision.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And Danny Sullivan is in. The dark clouds are here. It's not raining. They had slicks up, but they went to the rain car. He'll stay on the wets. Everything appears to be routine. You wonder if they've leaned it down. A lot of flame coming from the exhaust port that's clear. You hear the clutch engage as he spins away and showers everybody with moisture from pit road.
15.2 seconds, and Danny Sullivan is back into the action. Most of the leaders now making their stops. You see Al Unser Jr. maneuver his way around, and that will bring him up towards the top of the order as he'll come in contention with Danny Sullivan. So we'll have a nice little fight developing right at this point.
It looks as if Al Jr.'s pit work was, in fact, better than the Penske, because remember, when Al Jr. went in, he was behind Sullivan. When they both made their stops, Al Jr. got the position back. That's one up for the crew.
So Michael Andretti leads this race once again, now only by a margin of a little over 5 seconds over his father, who has yet to stop.
The reason I said earlier on it was a curious decision for Michael. With this drying line that we see here, that has a tendency to chunk and chew up those wet tires. So if he was going to stay on the wet tire, I'm surprised at least he didn't put a new set on.
There's Mario, second place in the pits. Here's Lynn St. James.
They've decided to go to these slicks this time. It's a different strategy than the Michael Andretti. This is a last-minute decision that they're making. They were going to adjust the wing, and Mario said no.
So Mario Andretti on dry tires on the slicks comes back into the action. So the Newman Haas team covering all bets.
Now we have two good hands to try and win this poker game. They have a foot in both camps.
Ari Leindyke comes up into second place. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Roberto Guerrero coming back in for the second time, furiously wiping at his visor, but he shut the engine down. He went out as they changed to dries. We thought they were maybe going to go back to rains, but that's not the case. They've got another problem that they're chasing right now. We'll have to try to find out what that may be as crew members work both front and rear of the car, and I'm wondering if they've got a problem with a brake or a shift linkage or something like that. We'll try to check and get a further update, Paul.
You can see they're working extensively at the back of that car. As this fight is between Bobby Rahal, who currently runs in 7th place. He's being chased by Teo Fabi, the Foster's Porsche, right behind him.
This is the battle of the race right now because Rahal has been trying everything possible to get Fabi off his tail, and Fabi looking to go to the outside, down the inside.
Whoa! Whoa, what a maneuver as Fabi comes in, locks his brakes, gets the back end loose, takes Rahal off as well.
A very, very brave move by Teo Fabi that didn't quite come off and managed to take both cars off the racetrack completely. Rahal in the mud, trying to keep the momentum going to get back on the racing line.
Well, that's exactly what he was thinking. It's like if you get off the road in the winter, you want to try and keep it rolling until you can get it back on dry pavement. Rahal did it, but Fabi came back on the course as well, maintained their same relative positions.
Same position, but most unusual lines they took for that last two corners.
What a spectacular move by Fabi, though, as it came by, and then you saw there was just enough moisture to lock up one of the tires.
That's what we mentioned earlier on. As soon as you move offline, it's a lot more slippery. That's where Fabi got down and got it way, way too sideways.
Another car off the edge of the course there. As the fight continues between Teo Fabi and Bobby Rahal for 7th place, and Teo is right back up there as they come onto the pit straight, charging once again. It's a nice sweeping turn to the left here. Not a real good passing position, but a great position to set up because you're running into a very definite braking maneuver just ahead.
Fabi is the faster car, but Rahal is very difficult to get by. Rahal protects his line, comes down the inside. Now Fabi tries to go around the outside again.
So Teo Fabi sits to the high side. Can't get past Rahal there, but very definitely got into the corner faster and maintained faster speed throughout the corner. It was just Rahal that had the better line. Now the fastest section of the course.
This is the type of racing you see on oval tracks when people go inside or outside.
Bobby tries it again to the inside. Didn't work last lap. This time he gets the job done and has passed Rahal. Maintains control of the car out of the corner. Rahal tries a different line to the outside. Remember Bobby Rahal, this used to be his home course. There's the other Porsche. That's John Andretti sideways on the circuit. This, when Rahal was racing for True Sports, they did all of their testing here. Rahal probably has thousands of more miles than any other driver on this circuit, so he knows how the circuit changes and how he can take advantage of it.
There was a big cheer for Fabi down at the end of that straight when he finally got the job accomplished, but Fabi now runs away from Rahal.
Got a flash of something bouncing across the circuit. It looked yellow. I hope it's not a part off of Rahal's car. And a light rain begins to pick up in some sections of the circuit. You can actually see evidence of that. Way to do it, of course, is just watch the surface of the tires, and if they glisten, then you know there's too much moisture there for a dry tire. Here is Rahal as he comes toward the sweeper in the first turn, maneuvers past, picks up the place, so the fight continues. This time, advantage Rahal.
Bobby looked very slow onto that front straight, so we don't know whether he has a problem or not.
At the front of the field, it is still Michael Andretti. Al Unser Jr. rides in second. Mario is third. We'll be back. This Track Fact is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. Now here's Gary Gerald.
Without question, one of the most critical points on any racetrack is the point where traffic coming out of the pits blends in with race traffic on the race circuit. And here at Mid-Ohio, when you come off pit road, you blend into traffic at the fastest corner on the racetrack. Speeds here of 120 miles per hour, a fourth gear corner, are now common. So what the folks at Mid-Ohio have done is come up with an ingenious but very simple and effective way to warn drivers of impending problems. There's a traffic light mounted here on the end of pit road with a signaler. If you see green, that's the indication that there's no traffic on the straightaway or on pit road. But if you see a yellow light and an indication of 1, 2, 3. That's the number of cars coming on either pit road or the front straightaway. It warns the driver of traffic and impending problems. It's particularly critical here for drivers at the end of the pits. Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr. Because of the way they're angled, they cannot see behind them in their rearview mirrors down pit road. So they have to rely on this person here and this traffic light to know if there's traffic and impending danger.
We rejoin the battle for second place as Al Unser Jr. and Mario Andretti battle. Mario Andretti was able to move his way around Al Unser Jr. and pick up second position once again. Little Al's been right there fighting with him as well. That's a fairly sophisticated system that they have for the pit exit here. This was the fight as Mario came down to challenge Al Unser Jr.
Remember, Mario Andretti is on dry tires. He's on slick tires. He seems to have more grip down on the inside, the drier part of the racetrack. Al Jr., remember, stayed on the wets. It looks as if the slick tires and the dry setup may have been the right choice.
At least for the moment. But, of course, the conditions are changing rapidly on this course. A few moments ago, we had bright sunshine over on the pit straight again, and now it's clouded up, and some of the clouds are rather low and dark.
Now we can focus on the team who gambled both ways. They sent Michael out on wets. We saw that in his stop. And Mario, who's running a very strong second place now, is on slick, dry tires. That team has both bases covered.
Michael Andretti has 35 seconds advantage over the second place car of his father, Mario. Remember, at Detroit, Michael led all the way, flag-to-flag win this year. It's only occurred 6 times in CART's 12-year history. The Andrettis performed 5 of those flag-to-flag wins.
Remember also, wet races tend to be very, very long because the speeds are so slow. We've had a lot of action here so far, and we're less than halfway through this race right now.
Michael Andretti's still out in front. In the pits, Gary Gerald is with Roberto Guerrero.
Well, we never like to see one of these smiling faces out of a race car. I understand it was a clutch problem, Roberto, after you'd gotten as high as 7th place.
Yeah, you know, at the beginning of the race, it was running pretty well, and then later on, something happened because the car wasn't really accelerating. You know, it was kind of like if I was driving with my left foot on the brake, something was happening. But then after we did the stops, the clutch, they started slipping, and then I did 2 laps easy to try and let it cool off, and it still would slip all the time. So
the conditions early had to be really miserable with visibility very, very tough at the start of this race.
That's right. The visibility was, I mean, if you closed your eyes, it was exactly the same. So you have to kind of just judge by feel, I guess. And then it got better and better.
Can you tell us anything about your plans for 1991?
Unfortunately, I can't really say very much. You know, it seems like the Alfa Romeo people, they seem to be able, they seem to want to run an Italian driver. So I don't even know if I'll be with them next year. So, you know, it's kind of a shame because I put a lot of work into the program. And now when it's starting to show potential, it seems like I may end up not running it. But I really don't know, Gary, what's happening yet.
We appreciate your time and wish you well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Paul?
Here comes Bobby Rahal rolling on the pit road as Mario Andretti is in. Let's go to Lynn St. James.
They're in the pits just to change tires. That's all they're doing is changing 4 tires. They're also changing the front wing, raising it 1 click up.
Of course, that's Michael Andretti was the leader of the race as he came flying in. He should be able to maintain his lead with that stop. Bobby Rahal came in as well. That was a change over to slick tires.
That was a gamble that almost didn't pay off as we watched Rahal make the change onto slick tires also. These are the drivers, remember, that didn't change not too many laps ago.
Well, Rahal, they let him sit there quite some time. And now he has to tiptoe his way out because he dampened those tires down pretty good as he came off the pit position. He'll have to wait until he sees they're no longer shiny before he can really turn on the power. And there comes Cheever flying past. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And following his teammate in, Bobby Rahal having just exited, Al Unser Jr. is in, and he's going now to the dry tires. They've pulled the reins off. They've made a quick change. He's off the jacks, and he's rolling. Good stop by this award-winning pit crew for Al Unser Jr.
And again, he takes it very carefully as he comes out. You could see as the dries came off, the steam rising off the tires, which tells you that's probably a pretty good move, Derek.
That is a good move. It really is. But now, of course, it takes Al Jr. a little bit of time to bring the tires up to working temperature. But Michael seems to have got away with his gamble of going onto wets because he still maintains his lead. They're both on slick tires now. Number 1 and number 2, Andretti's son, Andretti dad.
Michael Andretti out in front by 8.5 seconds over his father twice now. With superlative effort of that crew, he's come into the pits, made a change, in one case a change in refuel, and still stays out in front of this race. But you can see there's Mario right behind him as they work their way through the first turn. Mario Andretti now coming up to challenge his son to the inside.
Of course, the lead was lost with that second stop. Remember, Michael has stopped twice, Mario only once. Oh, Michael!
Michael loses and comes off into the gravel pit. Mario takes the lead. The kind of thing that Michael can't afford, but he keeps the car's momentum going. He tries to get back on the circuit. He certainly doesn't want to get stuck. He also has to watch for oncoming traffic. Now he can light it up, get those tires dry, and come back into the action. But Michael, a single little mistake, a pause of a second, and Michael loses the lead. Mario picks it up.
When they set these cars up to run in wet weather conditions, they turn the brake bias to the rear. We saw Michael lock those rear brakes. Perhaps he did not change back to a dry brake setting when he put those slicks on.
And that's just a little adjustment in the cockpit.
He can adjust it in the car. In fact, I would say he's probably adjusting it right now. Look at Cheever down the inside.
Eddie Cheever challenges to the inside and comes up into second place in doing so. So Cheever now in second place. Behind Mario Andretti, Michael drops back to third. Sullivan is in fourth. A very costly situation for Michael.
Very costly. He went off, in fact, in the keyhole where we saw Mario off earlier on. But Cheever, the man who took the early gamble, the first man to go on slicks, now his gamble is paying off handsomely.
Michael was very quick prior to that incident. He was running up above 103 miles an hour for a lap average. But boy, with a terrible situation as Michael comes off of the course, is able to get back on, but loses position as he does so, and boy, is he mad. He's very upset. Mario Andretti at the front of the field. That's the Indy champion, Arie Luyendyk. He works down inside Luyendyk. And Cheever sits in second place, but he's about 10 seconds back behind Mario Andretti. So a leader change here at the MidOhio Sports Car Course. Mario is in front. We'll be back.
Of course, some drivers are a little more enthusiastic than others. Nissan, built for the most demanding race of all, the human race.
You know, there was a time when taking care of your car was about as simple as filling it up. But times have changed, so have cars. Fortunately, Citgo has developed this new gasoline with HTA 1000 super detergent. It actually keeps today's cars running like new. So to take care of your car, fill it up with Citgo. Car care's never been simpler.
We're looking. We're looking. Yes, we are looking.
Come on.
I'm just looking for a push. Big.
Mario Andretti is still the leader at the MidOhio Sports Car Course. 47 laps of the 89-lap scheduled distance now complete. You're watching coverage of the Red Roof Inns 200 presented by Budweiser. And today it's brought to you by Goodyear Eagle Radials, the best-selling performance radials in the world. By Monroe Shocks and Struts. Monroe, your safety could depend on it. And by Citgo Gasoline with HTA 1000. Car care has never been simpler. Oh, there he is, the number 6 car, Mario Andretti, the Haviland Newman Haas Lola. With a superlative effort, chased down after running off the course his son Michael, and was able to move past Michael. We have a chance to take a look at that again because it was just one of those tiny mistakes. Here it is, Derek. That's Michael in front.
He's under braking for the carousel. Look, he locks up those fronts, then he locks up those rears, gets into a long, lazy spin. Now he can't stop the car. Gets on the gravel. He's lucky he went through this gravel trap, out onto the grass. Now he knows he must keep the car running. selects a gear and just keeps driving. Wheel spinning. Look at those wheels spin. But he mustn't get stuck in the mud. Back onto the racetrack as soon as possible.
And Mario Andretti had to come down hard on the brakes as well on board. So let's just ride with Michael Andretti as he heads for the keyhole. Well, you can hear all the gravel come raining down in the car. Now all that's in the cockpit with Michael. It's not going to be a comfortable ride from here on. But Michael runs in third place. Eddie Cheever runs in second. And his dad, Mario, runs at the top of the field. Let's get an update now that a series of the stops and kind of an adjunct second stop are complete. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And Paul, when Michael Andretti was going through that adventure, it was at that moment that the Penske team brought Danny Sullivan in, and they went to the dry tires, so they gave up on the rain tires. Emerson Fittipaldi followed him a lap later. There was confusion because Emerson and the radio wanted another set of wets, and they had the dries over the wall. They ended up putting the slicks on. Emerson's out there. I don't know if he's happy or not, but he's got slicks right now.
Well, Fittipaldi is well down in the order, running in 18th place right now. Has at least 3 laps to make up to come back in contention with the front of the field. Mario Andretti out in front, the man who has not won in an IndyCar race since July of 1988. He won then at Cleveland. Been a long streak, 37 races without a win. It'd be great to see one here today.
It would be great, and of course we remember he was the one that was so aggressive earlier on. We saw him go off course, but now he's controlling the race.
Here's Rick Mears, currently runs in 6th place. He'd fallen back to 14th. And of course, he's one of the contenders in the points fight. And the Penske team should focus on this car. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, we had an opportunity early when it was still very wet to talk with Richard Buck, and they were just really disappointed because of the wet weather. And they said that aerodynamically, the Penske chassis just doesn't seem to function, as was the case in Toronto, in the wet. As it progressively dries, we have then seen Rick come from, I believe, 15th place back up to 6th now. So he has been making terrific progress in the drier track. They're hoping it doesn't rain again.
I know one man watching this Pennzoil car very carefully at home rather than here at the track is Jerry Breon, who normally is changing that right rear tire on the car and is their tire man. I imagine his talent's sorely needed here today, but he twisted his knee at Vancouver, and as a result, didn't work the car there, and they decided to keep him home for this race. So we wish him well. Hope he's back soon. Out in front, it's Mario Andretti. 2nd place, 9 seconds back is Eddie Cheever. We'll be back.
The Quaker State King Racing Buick, winner of the 1989 Die Hard Award for the most top NASCAR miles, is winning again in 1990 as Brett Bodine takes first in the first Union 400. It takes a tough oil to keep a car running this tough, and it takes a tough driver to step right in, step on it, and win. But number 26 is one tough car. Brett Bodine is one tough driver, and Quaker State is one tough motor oil.
Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. Its breakthrough design gives you more power and more confidence from the start. Sears Die Hard, more power when you need it most.
The thinking that went into your Firestone tires took a lot of different tracks. At the toughest tracks in the country, we put Firestone tires to the test in all sorts of competition. We race a lot, we learn a lot, and it all goes into every Firestone tire we make. Firestone, tires that meet the test.
Got Firestones again, huh?
I've got a one-track mind.
We tested STP oil treatment under the worst possible conditions. In the taxi cabs in New York City. The result? Engine lift to wear was reduced by up to 50%. And now there's an STP for your newer car, too.
Michael Andretti runs in 3rd place on the pit straight, trying to catch 2nd place Eddie Cheever. Closes down the sweeping first turn to the left. Now, if you're going to do it under braking, just ahead is where you can do it.
This is where Michael had the trouble earlier on, so let's see, does he come down the inside of Cheever?
Michael Andretti moves to the inside, and Cheever comes right across, slams the door, and Michael has to evade him just a little bit and loses a little bit of momentum now. Coming to top revs, the fastest port of the circuit.
175 miles an hour, almost 180 during qualifying here. This is the fastest part of the circuit. Down into the bottom right-hand corner. Second gear, Michael goes down the inside.
Michael tries it and bounces heavily over the inside speed bumps, and Cheever locks a brake coming into the corner, giving the advantage to Michael Andretti. So Michael Andretti, as Cheever makes a small mistake, locks up a wheel and flats a tire in doing so.
What happened is Michael came down the inside. Cheever cut down. Michael's wing hit Cheever's tire, gave him a puncture. Cheever now has lost virtually his steering and his braking. He has to go very slow. But Michael's front wing, I think, is broken.
Everyone else comes streaming past. You just got a glimpse of Ray Hall as he came past. What a terrible break for Eddie Cheever, who is having the best IndyCar race of his life. Now he'll fall steadily backwards. Michael Andretti moves into second place, but while he's been battling with Cheever, Mario has been able to move steadily away and protect his lead.
What an unfortunate situation for Cheever. We saw him lock his brakes as he went up the hill. That's because when the rear tire gets punctured, the car lies down on that side where the tire is punctured, lifts the front wheel off the ground. That's the one that we saw locked. But Michael must have damage on that left front wing. It's like a knife. It slices into it.
Let's go to Lynn St. James.
Yes, we've got the Cheever car in. They were not sure whether they were going to change tires or not, but obviously that puncture made the decision for them. So they're going to put 4 fresh tires on. I see no correction made to the chassis, and he likes the way the chassis is running. Full field, 16.1 second pit stop. Excellent pit stop so that Eddie can have the best race of his career here in kart racing.
And 4 fresh, dry tires, so they got very wet coming out of the pits, and he fishtailed a bit coming down the center of the pit road. Now he has to tiptoe a little bit as he comes back into the action, and here is where the focus will come, Michael Andretti.
We see that left front wing. The end plate is gone. It's broken off that car. He broke that off when he hit Cheever. I don't know whether that would cause him to stop or not. I don't think it would. I think he's better off to soldier on. Because remember, he does have one more stop to make because he can't finish this with the fuel he has on at the moment. So he'll probably elect to stay out and fix whatever damage is done on his next scheduled stop.
And that probably helps explain the puncture on Cheever's car as well. Now Michael Andretti, 11 seconds behind his father, has to drive for all he's worth to try to catch up. The wing also is well down. The loss of the end plate is going to cause some problems on the left front aerodynamics. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Rick Mears pulling away from us through giant puddles of water here at the end of pit road, and he is the last of the drivers, Paul, to go to the dry tire. He's been on rains or the wets all this time. He finally now has made the change along with virtually the rest of the field.
I wonder what's affecting their decision-making on something like that. The sky itself hasn't changed, so apparently the teams do, in fact, have some reports of what's going on.
I was surprised that Mears stayed out for that length of time, but however, Sullivan was already on 6. Maybe they decided that the rain might come. They decided to leave Mears back out there on the wets.
There's Danny Sullivan. He currently runs in 6th place. Rick Mears comes out behind him. And we expect the leader in the pits any time now.
And it is raining now, Paul, right outside our booth. It has started to rain, so Mears, who only just changed to slicks, might have missed it by 2 laps.
Let's go to Lynn St. James as Beekus comes off the track. Lynn.
Yes, Mario's decided to come in. They're putting rain tires on, getting a full load of fuel, no chassis change. Mario shook his head no. He did not want to change in the chassis. The first one out to make that rain tire switch.
Mario rolling and apparently will keep his lead as he comes back onto the circuit. It was just a sudden downpour. You look down 1 second, it wasn't raining, and the next second, over on the pit straight at least, heavy rain. Michael comes through the pits as well. There's Scott Goodyear with a quick spin. He's obviously on the dry tires. Everyone's going to have to go over to the wet tires if they're going to maintain any kind of adhesion at all. There's Boyd Self. He's coming out on some new label rain tires as well. So the rain over on the pit straight slowing everyone down.
The sudden downpour almost catches people out here.
Here's Gary Gerald.
And Hal Unser Jr. comes in. Ray Hall beat him in and went to the rain tires. Mears has just come in. After just making the change, he goes back to wets. Unser, we're watching as they put the wets on. Yellow flag being displayed in the first turn, indicating a potential problem there as Little Al runs back onto the course.
11 seconds in and out with a change of tires for Little Al. Let's see if we can see why that yellow flag flies in the first turn. Might just be the advisory of the course condition changing so drastically. majestically and so quickly. Though as of yet, they have not displayed the crossed yellows at the start-finish line, which would bring us under a full course caution. So we are still under racing conditions here, with Mario Andretti still leading his son Michael, but the pace slows down again as water cascades across his course in some sections. There's Mario Andretti slowing down considerably now, tiptoeing, and he maneuvers his way around this circuit. Mario Andretti, the leader of the race. Michael Andretti runs in second. Al Unser Jr. as the course goes yellow all the way around. We'll be back with more after this.
Service to your car as easy as 1, 2, 3 at Chip's Goodyear Certified Auto Center in Jeffersonville. 1. Chip's Quick Lube Plus is a 14-point inspection that has you in and out in 30 minutes. 2. Chip stocks a full line of Goodyear tires with a nationwide warranty. And 3. Service. Chip is ASE certified and ready for the computerized cars of the 90s. So you see, service is as easy as 1, 2, 3 at Chip's Goodyear Certified Auto Center at the corner of 10th and Spring in Jeffersonville.
Look out tomorrow. Here comes Pontiac.
Look out, Kentuckiana, here comes Grand Prix, now with up to $2,600 cashback. Pontiac Grand Prix, equipped with 2.3-liter performance, air conditioning, front-wheel drive, AM/FM stereo. And now get low closeout prices and up to $2,600 cashback. Chosen as America's best domestic sedan by Motor Week. Look out, it's Grand Prix.
Browning, Hardin Motors, Sam Slope, Cross, Green Tree, Brinkhouse.
There's something to shout about on ESPN. Hawkins may go all the way. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Heisman candidates Eric Bieniemy and Darian Hagan lead Colorado against Southwest powerhouse Texas. It's live college football excitement. Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Back at the CART Red Roof Inns 200, presented by Budweiser. Mario Andretti leads this race by 12 seconds over Michael Andretti. And in the past few minutes, a downpour here on this 2.25-mile circuit. A number of cars spinning off, though no report of any serious damage or certainly no injury. We saw Jan Vikas go flying off. He was kind of the first signal that everything was wet. And you see by the onboard camera shots, it's very, very wet. All of those in competition into the pits over to the wet tires. Pace car will come out. It might take some time to gather the field up because they're fairly spread out over this large circuit. And you can see there, Derek Daly, just how wet it really is.
Now we're back to the conditions that we had at the start. In fact, this is almost the exact picture we had from inside Al Unser Jr.'s cockpit right at the start of this race. We've gone to full dry. Now we're back to wet again. Remember, Al Jr. dropped back a little bit when it dried out, but at the start of the race, he was very, very quick when it was wet. We do know that he has a slightly softer setup than normal.
You were doing for yourself a little list of who was quick in the wet. Can you run down that for us?
We remember Mario was very, very aggressive and fast in the wet. Probably a little bit faster than Michael. Al Jr. was very good, but we saw the Penske's drop back a little bit, so they do not like the rain having come back.
So Mario Andretti, that Dayglow-tipped roll bar on his car, works around behind the PPG pace car now, and we are under a full course caution. We'll be back.
Hello, Mom.
It's Jimmy. You sound as if you're in the next room, dear.
With Optic Phone's new fiber optic audio sonic lasers.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer. They keep going and going.
We put our Firestone Firehawk GTX to the test. And won. The H-rated Firestone Firehawk GTX all-season performance radio. Head-to-head against Goodyear, Goodrich, and General. It beat them all. Firestone, tires that meet the test.
I'm beat. So's the competition.
The Firestone Firehawk GTX, backed by a 40,000-mile limited treadwear warranty. See it at your Firestone retailer today.
Here's Joe Montana for Astrolite batteries.
This is AstroTurf. This is the Astrodome. And this is an Astrolite battery. AstroTurf and the Astrodome revolutionized football. Astrolite uses revolutionary power technology in its car batteries.
Get Astrolite, a powerful, top-quality battery at a price you can't pass up.
Astrolite.
Airedale air freshener gets rid of the toughest odors. I use it here, here,
even here.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer. They keep going and going.
Ohio Sports Car Course in 1 week. It's off to the CART Texaco Haviland 200 from the Road America Sports Car Course at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Same-day coverage at 5 o'clock Eastern as we continue here on ESPN to cover the Indy cars as they move toward the decisive final race of the season, the championship. Perhaps now decided at Elkhart Lake. We're not going to see it decided here today.
Of course, it could have been decided if Al Unser Jr. did manage to win. What a record that would have been. He's already won 4 in a row. What a streak. Never equaled before in IndyCar racing, but 5 in a row. The odds are against him right now because Mario Andretti has the ball in his court right now, and he really can control the remaining laps of this race.
Of course, though, we've seen so many changing conditions. We've seen Mario off the course once. We've seen Michael as the leader go off the course and relinquish the lead in doing so. So with the changing weather situation, which as you can see there, sunshine.
Actually, you're right. It's a very dangerous situation to say somebody has control, particularly with what we've seen in this incredible event so far this afternoon.
So the sun is shining over on the south side of the circuit. The green flag should come out here. There it is from Nick Finaro. And we're back racing again. So Michael has to work his way through some other cars. Jeff Wood, Boycell. There's Michael already around Fittipaldi and trying to close on his father.
Mario has the clear road. We can see that. Not very much standing water. A little bit there where the S's come up, but that's Boycell in the red car running third. That's Jeff Wood behind Mario. They are lapped cars. Michael needs to get past these two vehicles before he can attempt to make a pass on his dad.
There's Michael and closing in quickly. Fittipaldi and Michael did not battle long at all. Fittipaldi probably wisely said, "You're in the fight. Go ahead and take the line." As Mario Andretti
picks fifth gear. Fifth gear, even in the rain, very dicey, 165 miles an hour, even in the rain, down to second gear here, and very, very delicate use of the throttle because we've seen many times this afternoon what can happen with too much power.
Think of the thousands and thousands of miles of expert experience that ride in the cockpit there with Mario Andretti. Let's go down to the pits. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, just a quick update now. People wondering about the pit stop situations. The yellow flag really helped everybody on fuel mileage because many of these teams may have had to come in for a splash in the final couple of laps. Now they don't think that'll be the case. We've checked with the leaders at this end involving Sullivan, Ray Hall, Unser Jr. All of them believe that they're in good shape to go the distance. The changing conditions is the key. If we get much more sunshine and this track dries out on the race line, then they may have to make another decision on tires. Let's go to the other end now, and Lynn St. James.
That's right. Eddie Cheever was one of those cars that had to...
Well, we're having trouble staying in contact. The rain doesn't help race cars. It helps television even less. Lynn was pointing out that Eddie Cheever did come in, take a splash for fuel. Everyone now should be within running distance of the finish. 68 laps are complete. 89 laps the scheduled distance. And Michael trying to close in on his father.
Mario takes the inside line, runs over that concrete patch. We mentioned that earlier on. Look at that spray. Look at that spray from those tires. A rooster tail being sent up. But there is Michael. He has closed that gap considerably in that one lap.
He's around the cars that mattered. Michael now is in contact. His father lies just ahead. Another lap or two, Michael may close right down on the back of Mario's car, and once again, we will have a battle for the lead as Michael drives through the sunshine at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
This is where Toyota learns the value of racing. This is where you learn the value of racing.
There aren't any fax machines or PCs to help you at this job. And your career path is largely determined by the mood of your horse. So why would anyone choose to work up here in the mountains? Maybe it's the fringe benefits.
Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Michael Andretti challenges his father at the end of the long straight. They're side by side, working their way through the corners. This gives the better position to Mario as Mario is able to forge away. Now, Michael comes to the inside. He has better position for just a moment, but Mario continues to hold on. Battle for the lead here. The course, once again, is drying, though it's still very wet in many sections. The changing course service could affect these wet tires, grooved rain tires that most of these cars are now carrying. In fact, all of them. The report now, everyone is on the wet tires. And Michael came up to challenge Mario, had him for just a second, but Mario would have none of it.
There is a no-holds-barred racing here. It's incredible to see your dad race so hard, chop you off if necessary. Now remember, Mario has not won a race for a long, long time. He would like to win the event. Michael would like to win the race because he's trying to catch Al Jr. for the championship. I wonder will Mario help his son or look after himself?
And as we look at the scenario, third place is Al Unser Jr. So Al, vitally interested in the actions of these two. The worst possible scenario would be if the two of them get together and take one another out.
Well, that would not be the first time we've seen these two get together. I have seen front wings go astray from each other's cars before when one will not. Look at Mario get sideways now. Look how hard he is trying just to stay ahead of Michael.
Mario Andretti battling for all he's worth to keep his son back. Newman Haas team, boy, I wonder what they're thinking now as here comes Michael once again. This time it's pretty clear cut. Michael's all the way through, but can he get the car stopped smoothly into the corner? He does so. Mario comes in behind, but Mario is not going to give it up. He's going to try for position on the corner.
Michael is now doing what we saw Mario do earlier on, be extremely aggressive. Remember, look at Mario come down the inside, but Michael has that broken left front wing, but it doesn't really seem to make much difference right now.
Advantage to Michael Andretti now as he's back to the front of this field. 70 laps now complete. 89 laps the scheduled distance. Michael, who had the pole, led the early going, led the most laps already, is back in front, and now Mario is chasing.
And back in control, I would say, probably 7-8 car lengths now, already with less than half a lap gone since he passed Mario. Here's Ari Leyendijk, looking at Ari Leyendijk.
Leyendijk off the course, trying to get a push to get back on it. He was up well into the top 10. 7th place, his last reported position, but he's dropping steadily backwards now as well.
Hard to tell whether he made contact with anything or not. We were looking at that rear wing to see was it bent. The engine is not running. He hopes to get on the track, and those track marshals will help him fire up that engine. But we see another car off the course there at turn 1.
Is well back there at turn 1. Also, Scott Goodyear got off the course. He tagged the wall with the rear, though, so not expect that Scott Goodyear will be back in action. So at the front of the field, Michael decisively around his father and begins to pull away. So with the changing conditions here, who knows what could happen next. We'll be back.
There's no dashboard light to warn you.
I like it. I miss you. Caught between a rock and the hard place.
The Rolling Stones Urban Jungle European Tour and the Rock and Roll Summit from Budweiser, making the world a better place through rock and roll.
If you're looking for a rotor or a windshield wiper motor, yeah, you'll find it at CART West.
If you've got the smarts, then it's the place for parts.
Yeah, you'll find it at CART West.
Why run around town when they've got it all down at CART West?
Take it from Roy Clark and the repairmen. If it's a really tough part, then don't lose heart. Yeah, you'll find it at CART West.
Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Paul Page with Derek Daly, Gary Gerald, and Lynn St. James. We're watching Raul Boycell in the Budweiser car. This is the True Sports entry. Of course, True Sports next year looking for an entirely American-built, constructed, maintained automobile. It's the dream of Steve Horn.
Of course, we haven't had such a situation since Dan Gurney had his American-built Eagles, the All-American team they were called. I think it would be good to see it. People always ask, why are all the cars that win races built in England? Well, they say Roger Penske built his own car. In fact, it's designed and built by Nigel Bennett in Poole in England. But Steve Horn has a dream to build an American Indy car and take it to victory lane with True Sports and Budweiser.
course, the Indy cars, as we finish this year, and still undecided, championships still up for grabs, has already announced next year's schedule, opening on the 17th of March in Queensland, Australia. Then coming up through Long Beach, Phoenix, of course, the Indianapolis 500, sanctioned by USAC, then Milwaukee, Portland, Cleveland, and off to the Meadowlands and East Rutherford, New Jersey. Toronto, Brooklyn, Michigan, that's Michigan 500, of course, Vancouver, Lexington, Ohio, Elkhart Lake, Nazareth, and finish the season again at Monterey. You may have noticed, as everyone seems to have, Detroit is not in that list. There's been quite a bit of conversation about Detroit, and we talked to Johnny Caples, the president of CART, and we asked him about the possibility that Detroit's Grand Prix will be back on the 1991 schedule.
Well, CART is going to reopen negotiations for a 1991 pack. That's the only year that the site downtown is available to an IndyCar event, and so CART is going to try to reopen negotiations with Mr. McCabe, and he's very happy about that, to see if we can make a one-year pack on the event.
I hope they get that one back on the schedule. That's a good race, and also part of their problem, the reason they're talking only about 1 year, is that the downtown of Detroit is growing so rapidly. Trying to figure out where the course is going to be is a serious problem.
That's right, but there is a lot of enthusiasm in Detroit for this event, and there has been talk if they do move it, they'll simply move it to another site. I don't know whether that's possible, but I hope it is, because Detroit is the motor city in America here, and I think it's where Indy cars should be racing and have been racing for the last 2 years.
And you know how guys like Derek and I feel, if there's a chance for a race, we want it to happen.
That's it. We want it to happen.
Of course, a lot of talk, too, about the opening at Australia. First time the Indy cars will run down there, though certainly not the first time by a long shot that Indy cars or championship cars have run outside of the United States. They've run in South America, certainly run in Europe. Carl Haas, the owner for both Mario and Michael Andretti, shares the team with Paul Newman. With just 10 laps to go now, Michael Andretti works in front of his father by 10 seconds. Al Unser Jr. sits back in third place. Eddie Cheever is fourth. Being challenged now by Danny Sullivan, who runs in fifth place. Then Ray Hall. Rick Mears in seventh. Scott Brayton in eighth. Raul Boycell in ninth. Mike Groff is 10th. Let's go down to the Newman Haas pits. Lynn St. James is with their aerodynamicist, Tony Sicali.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Yes, I am with Tony. Tony, from an engineering standpoint, how is the wing affecting Michael's car? Because Mario was leading. Michael was able to get by him, but he is running out there with a wing that is not totally functional, obviously, that's missing a part.
Well, I think in these conditions, actually, it's probably not hurting him, because I think they added a little bit too much front wing on their stop. At least that's what he complained about early on in the wet. So losing the efficiency of the front wing perhaps have eased and balanced the car and made the car better. So I don't really think it's hurting him at this point. He's running a very quick lap time.
Mario's obviously very comfortable out there, very settled and running very well. How do you feel it's going to go? I know there's been a lot of variables here you can't control, but how do you feel he's going to finish?
Well, it looks like Michael's running pretty strong now, and unless something happens, I would suspect Michael will win.
Okay, thanks very much.
Certainly hopes that Michael will win. They'd like to see one of those two cars out in front. Michael Andretti leads his father. Mario, about 10 seconds now.
Something else interesting that Michael has done. This is inside his car. Look at the tape he has used on the top of the visor. That holds the visor open, holds the cracks so the air can circulate all the time. It also stops water from draining down behind the top of the visor. So a nice move by Michael there in preparation for a very, very wet afternoon.
It's one of those things that comes with experience. Michael, very experienced in the rain, very successful in the rain. So Michael Andretti working his way around the circuit.
And of course, the worst possible thing in a wet race is if your visor mists up, or you get so much fluid down behind the visor, you simply can't see where you're going.
80 laps into the record book. Mario Andretti, 11 seconds behind his son, Al Unser Jr. Back another 17 seconds or so. So the front three are not in contention. Let's go to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Well, here's a very familiar face to those who've watched movie screens and television sets for years around the world. James Garner is here taking this one in. And a lot of people would say, why in the world on a day like this would a fellow like Jim Garner be out here watching Indy cars in Mid-Ohio?
Well, I'm a race fan. I've been coming to IndyCar racing since the late 50s. And I love it. I love it.
We had a chance, of course, to see you. You've driven the pace car at Indianapolis. You've been closely involved. You've driven these kind of cars in the past. And under these conditions today, you really have to respect what these men and their crews are going through.
This is a race of drivers today. The drivers are really going to show their mettle, you know, because the top speed, the aerodynamics, all that That doesn't make any difference today. It's who can keep it on that black part.
Nice to see you out here enjoying the day despite the elements.
Yeah, he's made a good race out of it, though.
It really has. Thank you, Jim. Let's go back to Paul Page.
I tell you what, considering the fact that he's a real superstar, he's just another race fan when he comes to the track. He loves to just get down in with him and enjoy the race. Jim Garner. Well, Michael Andretti leads. Mario is in second. We'll be back with more right after this.
If you can't...
Right at 8 seconds. Mario had closed down just a bit. But then apparently Michael became aware, or whatever the reason, Michael began to pick up the pace just a little and now tries to pull away. A man who is in the fight, Michael Andretti, for the PPG IndyCar World Championship. We ask him, well, what does he think his chances are right now?
It's tough, you know, but we're going after it. We're looking at, we want to win the next 5 races, you know, and that's what we're going to try to do. I'm talking about 6 races, the Marlboro Challenge. And I think it's possible for us to do it. So, you know, he won 4 in a row. Why can't we win 5 in a row?
Well, the possibility seems coming to life for Michael Andretti right now. The pole position winner, led most laps in this race, so he's already picked up a single point for that. And now he leads his father, Carl Haas. Keeps watching, chewing on that cigar. Writes a word every lap by.
Michael probably had his fair share of bad luck, particularly in Vancouver. Remember, he was leading the race very strongly when he had that engine problem and presented the win to Al Unser Jr. So I think Michael probably has had more than his fair share of bad luck in his championship chase.
Mario Andretti runs in second place. In third place is Al Unser Jr. Fourth place is Eddie Cheever with a fine run, despite the problems that he's had today. Danny Sullivan now lined up behind Cheever, runs in 5th place. Bobby Rahal is 6th. Rick Mears is 7th. Both of those still in the points fight as well. And those finishing positions will help keep them alive in that battle. 8th place is Scott Brayton. Raul Boisel is 9th. Mike Groff is 10th right now, and Dean Hall is 11th.
Now we see Cheever as the track is drying, just like earlier on, closing down on Cheever. Cheever is excellent in the rain. That car may be a little bit soft, but as it dries out, these Penske's seem to benefit a little bit more than the Lolas. See the moisture trails being left by Sullivan's rear wing there as he accelerates down that back straight. That's because the moisture is being heated, and you see that on airplanes when it's taking off through the clouds also.
That's Danny Sullivan running in 5th place, chasing Eddie Cheever. This is the closest fight on the circuit right now. Michael still maintains 11 seconds ahead of his father, Mario Andretti. This is the fight on the circuit. Al Unser Jr. in third also runs all alone at this moment. There's the lead of the race as Michael Andretti has to work his way around the CART safety truck. They're still, well, they finally got Tony Bettenhausen back and running. That's good news.
Believe it or not, it has taken that long to get Tony out of that gravel pit, because not only was Tony stuck, but of course the safety truck gets no traction because the ground is so wet and so muddy.
So Michael Andretti, 2.25 miles around this circuit. Michael has led most of the circuits around the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and there is father, the number 6 car. That brightly colored rollover bar, 11 seconds behind Michael. Another 10 seconds back is Al Unser Jr., the points leader at this moment. And if this man, Al Unser Jr., would finish in this position, he'll come away from this event with 182 points. Michael Andretti will come away in second with 137.
Al Unser Jr. has probably the perfect championship year this year, because he got the wins when he needed them. When bad luck befell other people, he was there to pick up the wins and the points, and now he's consolidating his points lead by a very strong 3rd place.
And a glimpse of the corner workers, course marshals here, who also battled the elements here today and done a remarkable job. Michael Andretti, next time by, should take a look at a white flag signifying just one more lap to go. Carl Haas, every lap, he'll write down peace or love, or it's part of a ritual that Carl has at the track.
Carl does have a ritual. We have seen him go out onto the grid and touch all the critical parts of the car. Give it a little blessing, and it does work sometimes. I mean, his success ratio for all his race teams over the many, many years has been quite incredible. Everything he puts his hand to, he turns it into success.
Well, there can't be more satisfying moment for an owner to see his cars come in 1st and 2nd. And that looks like it may be the situation for the Newman-Haas team here today. Mario Andretti is in second, 11 seconds back. But this fight continues as Danny Sullivan closes on fourth place Eddie Cheever, and they continue their fight.
Cheever trying to hold off Sullivan. Look, he pulls out a nice little stretch under acceleration. But of course, remember, Cheever gets on the brakes first at the next turn, and Sullivan closes right back up again.
White flag. Michael Andretti is on the final lap. Just 2¼ miles to go. His father will come across the line again about 10 seconds back. The race, though, is not over yet. Remember, Michael still has that problem with the wing. Remember that the course is still very damp in some places, very dry in others, so anything could happen. Michael Andretti, you see him now in the cockpit. He knows that he is very close to the finish at this point and could score the win here today, and that will put him strongly back in the points fight. Remember that Michael Andretti, during qualifying, drove, as Derek Daly pointed out, his car head-on into a tire barrier, had to sprint to get to the backup car. In fact, ward off the doctors who wanted to look at him. They got their examination done. He went right into the backup car and qualified in the last lap of qualifying, taking the pole away from Danny Sullivan, who had been quick time up to then. Now, with an excursion off the course, with all of the rain, then the dry, then the rain again, it's been a very long weekend for Michael Andretti, and it looks like it is about to pay off as he circles on the last lap.
And those hardened enthusiasts might remember Teo Fabi had a big crash in practice last year, used his spare car for the pole, and went on to win the race. Almost a carbon copy of this year.
So Michael Andretti, the Kmart, Haviland Lola, turning now into the carousel. One more left-hand turn to go. Twin checkered flags now fly for Michael Andretti, who wins here at Mid-Ohio, and his father will come across the line in second place. We watch for his dad to come across, and Michael wins it. Mario finishes in second. Al Unser Jr. will come across the line in third place, and Danny Sullivan and Eddie Cheever will battle to the line. There's Michael, the winner. There comes Al Unser Jr. He's finished in third place, now with 182 PPG points, and Sullivan is coming at that. Now there's Mario Andretti. We're looking now to see, as we see Fittipaldi, we're looking for Cheever and Sullivan's going to try Cheever in the carousel. Cheever holds the line. One more turn for this fight. And Cheever leads Sullivan to the checkered flag. Eddie Cheever finishes in fourth place, Sullivan in fifth.
A very, very eventful day. We saw all sorts of things happen. Collisions, tire changes, leaders off course.
It's career win number 13 for Michael Andretti, the winner of the Red Roof Inns 200. We'll be back to talk with Michael right after this message.
The streak of Al Unser Jr., and what a day of drama. You get off course through the gravel, you have contact with Eddie Cheever. Did you think this one is ever going to end, and would you be in victory lane?
I never thought it was going to end, and I never thought I'd be in victory lane after all those circumstances. It was just a long race. You know, we made a mistake by putting on the wet tires there on our first pit stop, and that made it for a long day. But we were able to come back, and surprisingly with the front wing, I think it actually helped me when in the wet. So you know, it was just a lucky day.
Well, as it turns out, it's the second time this year it's been son and father 1 and 2. Here's Mario Andretti, who has stepped in here on the side, and congratulations being offered. And Mario, a quick word with you on what it was like today and what it was like to have to lose the lead to your son.
Well, I didn't want to lose the lead to anyone, but obviously I had no balance under certain conditions on the track. The balance of the car went away. I tried to go with a different wing, and as it turned out, probably was a mistake. But you know, we sort of gambled that it was going to be real heavy downpour all day, but when the thing would start to dry up, you know, my car just went away.
All right, a pair of Andrettis. It's Michael the winner, Mario right here second, Paul.
And the third time in the history of the Indy cars that the Andrettis have finished first and second in an Indy car race. Congratulations to Michael Andretti. We'll be back with more after this.
You may not have thought about getting a Sears Die-Hard battery.
On winner's circle for Michael Andretti here at Mid-Ohio. ESPN's coverage of the Red Roof Inns 200 presented by Budweiser has been brought to you by Busch Beer. Head for the mountains of Busch. and by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil.
The winning streak over for Al Unser Jr., but the championship hopes alive with a 45-point lead. It's not a bad day.
No, it's not. You know, I just want to thank all my guys for doing a great job. And really, my main goal was to just keep it on the racetrack and not put it off. And so I was a little bit too conservative through the beginning part. And then I messed up by not putting on dries on my first stop. And a couple mistakes like that just put us in third.
Well, he's here in a third-place finisher. Let's go back to Paul Page.
All right. Al Unser Jr., though, can, in fact, clinch the championship next week at Road America as we take a look through the final standings of this race here. Down through the top 10. Surprisingly, most of the cars that started this race were still running at the finish. And turned out to be a pretty good day, though much of the race had to be played by the pit crews.
I think although it was wet and windy, everybody who braved the elements got more than their money's worth.
Here are the PPG IndyCar World Series points. Al Unser Jr. with 182, though Michael Andretti closed down just that much more. Michael has already indicated his objective is to win every one of these races this year. So Michael Andretti wins it at Mid-Ohio. Paul Page for Derek Daly, Gary Gerald, and Lynn St. James. So long.